You open your eyes not to sunlight, but to breath. Warm and sour against your cheek. The shared exhale of someone sleeping too close beside you. Maybe your brother. Maybe a cousin. Maybe someone who never quite left after the last harvest and has simply remained, like the smell of damp wool. The air is thick, not just with scent, but with silence, heavy enough to press against your skin. You lie still, feeling the weight of your own limbs, unsure if it's sleep or cold or both. That's made them sluggish. Dull. The thatch above you weeps a single drop down onto your brow, and you do not flinch. The moisture traces a slow line to your temple, like a blessing or a warning. Around you, the wooden walls creak softly, expanding, contracting, responding to a morning chill that never fully lifts. Your fingers curl instinctively against the pelt beneath you, rough and balding in patches, still warm from the heat of shared bodies. Somewhere beyond the thin walls, a rooster calls with hoarse insistence. Not heroic, but tired. As if even it knows there is nothing fresh to greet. You shift slightly, and the old pain stirs a hollow echo in your knees. A tightness at the base of your spine where it always pinches on damp mornings. Beneath you, the straw mattress hisses softly with your movement, expelling the scent of mold. Of flattened hay, and something vaguely sour that's probably rot, but might also be the memory of someone's fever. You inhale it anyway, because it is your world. The wool blanket clings to you, stiff, where once it was soft, so laden with the ghosts of unwashed seasons that it moves more like a hide than cloth, heavy as wet bark and etched with the sleep of many nights. Your face is crusted with salt from your own breath, your mouth dry and thick as if you've swallowed smoke in your dreams. Still, you do not move. Not yet. The ache has not yet faded into the kind of numbness you can carry. It takes time. Waking is not a thing that happens all at once here. It comes in layers, like smoke curling from a dying ember, or the soft unraveling of thread from a worn sleeve. First you become aware of the weight of your own body, then the presence of others, then the sounds, the damp, the itch at your scalp, where the lice have made their home and dream alongside you. You turn your head slowly, cheek dragging across the coarse cloth you use as a pillow, and your neck protests with a crunch. Your eyes catch the dim light filtering through the slats of wood in the wall, each beam like a finger laid across your face. The light does not promise anything. It simply is. And then come the smells: sweat, damp wool, smoke, wet earth. Something faintly metallic that might be blood or rust or both. They are not unpleasant. They are only what they are proof that you exist. That others do too. Someone stirs near your feet, muttering in sleep, and a baby begins to whimper, not yet ready to cry, but aware that it must soon. The fire in the hearth has gone out. You can smell the damp wood, cold and sullen. You breathe through your nose, slowly, and the breath trembles a little in your throat, the way it does when something inside you wants to cry, but won't. There is no room for crying here. Only waking, only rising, only putting one foot on the floor and hoping it is not wet. Or worse, but you don't move. Not yet. You let the stillness hold you a moment longer. Like arms? Like memory? Like the last dream you cannot quite remember, but also cannot forget. And in that half-light, half-sleep moment. You almost imagine that the day might be different, that the air might be warm, that the bread might be soft, that someone might smile and mean it. Almost, you sit up slowly, as if moving through water, as if the air has thickened overnight into something viscous and reluctant to let you pass. Your joints murmur in protest, brittle as frostbitten twigs, and your breath catches as the cold settles in beneath your ribs. The blanket slips from your shoulders like an old promise, leaving your skin bare to the morning's touch, which is not gentle. It bites softly at first, then deeper, until your arms are prickled with goose flesh and your teeth pressed together to keep from chattering. The floor greets your feet, not like a friend, but like a test. It is cold, uneven, faintly damp, and the dust clings to your soles as if it too is desperate to belong to something. Somewhere across the room, a hen flaps half-heartedly in the straw near the door, disturbed by your rising, or simply startled by its own reflection in the iron pot. You stand, legs shaking briefly as your weight redistributes across the parts of you that still work, that haven't yet surrendered to the quiet violence of daily wear. You reach for your tunic, rough wool that smells of wood smoke and labor, and pull it over your head. The fabric scratches your skin with the familiarity of a sibling, annoying, unavoidable, and present. It itches where it always itches, especially under the arms and along the back of your neck, where sweat and time have formed an invisible crust that no amount of scrubbing will ever lift. You tie the belt at your waist, not to shape, but to hold. Everything must be held together. There is no mirror here, and you do not need one. You know your face by the feel of it raw in some places, dry in others. A constellation of aches and calluses that tell a story too long for words. Your hands move across your scalp, searching out the lice, feeling for scabs. Checking the weft of your own unwashed hair, you feel hunger begin to stretch itself within you. Slow and wide, like a yawn from your belly to your throat. Not sharp, not loud, just a quiet pulling. A reminder that something must be filled today. If it can, you move toward the door, stepping over sleeping bodies, careful not to disturb the fragile line between sleep and waking in those you love and barely know. The wood creaks beneath you, each sound a small confession. When you open the door, it moans with the fatigue of too many mornings. Too much weather. Too little care. Outside, the world greets you with its usual silence. The kind that comes before sound, not after. The sky is pale, not yet fully committed to the day, and the fields beyond lie flat and indifferent. You breathe in the morning like a punishment. The air is sharp, and you taste the ash from last night's fire. The damp moss of the thatch, the faint sweetness of frozen mud. You stand there for a long moment, not ready to begin, not ready to go back. The cold kisses your cheeks with cracked lips. Somewhere, a dog barks. Somewhere, a bell tolls. Somewhere, deep inside you, the dream of rest still lingers. Folded like linen at the back of a cupboard, no one opens anymore. You step into the day the way one might step into a river in winter. Not with boldness, but necessity. Touche. First, breath held. The shock traveling up your legs like an old memory that hasn't quite faded. The ground is uneven, slick in places where yesterday's frost has begun to melt, and the weight of your body finds every dip and stone, each one pressing itself into the soles of your feet, as if to remind you that even standing is not free. You carry the wooden bucket in your hand, its handle polished by years of palms before yours, and the sway of its emptiness is familiar, almost comforting. It thuds softly against your leg as you walk, echoing in rhythm with your heart. Around you, the village stirs slowly, like an animal waking after long hibernation. Reluctant and creaky. Smoke curls from the mouths of crooked chimneys. Low and grey and lazy in the windless dawn, a child cries somewhere behind a shuttered wall. Not in fear, but in hunger. The sound is thin, reedy, unfinished. You pass a woman bent over a basin, her hands red from scrubbing linen in water, gone brown with yesterday. She does not look up. Her arms move in steady circles. Like prayer? You keep walking. The well waits at the edge of the square. Its stones slick with moss, its pulley stiff from cold. You kneel beside it and feel the bite of the stone through your tunic, through your skin, down to your bones. The rope creaks as you lower the bucket, and when it hits water, the splash is distant, almost imagined. You draw it back up slowly, arms trembling with the strain, and the water that comes up is cold, heavy, and impossibly alive. You look into it and see nothing, no reflection, no clarity, just movement. Just the shimmer of something deep and unknowable. You drink first, because you must. The water burns going down, not from heat, but from cold. So deep it feels like fire. It wakes something in you that wishes it hadn't. You pour the rest into a clay basin and wash your face, your hands, the back of your neck. The water stings where your skin is cracked, and you inhale sharply. A sound too small to be called pain, but too honest to ignore. You dry yourself on your sleeve, wool scraping against rawness, and the world begins to sharpen. The colors come in now. The muted brown of thawing mud, the dull green of moss, the grey of sky, and your own hands, red and trembling, gripping the edge of the basin like a ledge. There is no mirror. But if there were, you know what? You'd see a face, not old, but aged, weathered, like wood, left too long in the rain. Eyes that have learned not to expect softness, lips pressed into the shape of endurance. You carry the bucket home in silence, arms tired, spine bending in its quiet way, not enough to break, but enough to bow. When you enter the hut again, it is warmer, barely. The fire has been coaxed back to life, and its glow flickers across the faces of your family, still tangled in sleep. You set the bucket down. Someone stirs. Someone coughs. The baby is crying now, properly. And your mother is already up, already moving, already singing something low and tuneless. Not for comfort, but for rhythm. You sit by the hearth and hold your hands near the flame, letting the heat chase the numbness from your fingertips. And you breathe, not because it helps, but because it is the one thing your body still gives freely. You eat, not because you are hungry, but because something inside you understands the routine matters more than the taste. The pottage is warm in places, cold in others. A thick stew of yesterday's root ends and last week's barley, stirred until the line between time and texture is blurred beyond recognition. You hold the wooden bowl in both hands, its rim worn smooth by generations, and lift it to your mouth. It smells faintly of sour milk and earth, but it is food. And food is not questioned. You sip slowly, lips pursing against the wood, the heat touching the raw place where your tooth aches beneath the gum, a shard of something bone or bark. You can't tell scrapes your tongue, and you wince, but swallow anyway. The bread beside it is older than you wish it were. You soften it in the broth before biting, and even then your jaw protests. Clicking in, quiet, defiance. Around you, the others eat too, in silence broken only by the occasional cough, the clearing of a throat, the shifting of limbs. It is a shared ritual, almost sacred in its stillness. No one speaks. Speaking costs energy. And besides, there is nothing to say that hasn't been said already, or thought, or felt. You glance at your father across the hearth. His face is still and unreadable, eyes fixed on the fire as if it might offer answers it has never given. His hands are wrapped around his own bowl, knuckles swollen from old work and older winters. You see your own future in those hands, and you look away. The baby quiets. The door is still cracked from your earlier passing, and the breeze slips in like a secret, curling around your ankles, tasting the warmth of the fire before slipping out again. You finish eating. The bowl is set down without ceremony. The day must begin. You rinse the bowl with a handful of water and set it aside. Fingers numb again from cold, but used to it. The sun is higher now, though it gives little heat. Apale. Zmaggi na paliskai. You wrap yourself tighter in your tunic and prepare to go out again. Your feet slide into shoes if you're lucky. Thin leather cracked from use. Barely more than shaped hide, or else they stay bare. Pressing again to the waiting earth. To the mud and frost and memory of dung, the yard greets you not like a place, but like a continuation of the same breathless dream. Chickens stir near the fence, scratching at nothing. Feathers dulled by dust and fatigue. You check the pen, the trough, the gate latch. Each motion learned by heart, repeated without thought. Your hands move before your mind does. You touch wood, stone, rope, the textures of your life. Rough, coarse, unyielding. In the distance, the fields lie still, waiting for your tread. Your labor, your spine, they do not care for your aches or your dreams or the quiet desperation that sometimes crests behind your ribs like a second heartbeat. They only ask that you come, and you will. You always do. You turn toward them, breath hanging in the air before you, like a question with no one to answer it. And then, without ceremony, you walk, not with purpose, but with practice. One foot, then another. The wind moves through the bare trees above you, and the sound it makes is like cloth being torn. Slow and soft and endless. You pull your cloak tighter, bow your head, and step into the silence of the land, as you have always done, as you will continue to do, until the silence takes you back. The field stretches before you like a body that cannot be healed, only endured. Its surface is uneven, crisscrossed with the scars of last year's labor, stiff with frost that refuses to yield even beneath your breath. You pause at the edge, not from hesitation, but from habit. The way you might wait before stepping into a river. Feeling the hush gather around your ankles before the cold takes hold. Your fingers rest on the haft of the hoe. Familiar and unwelcome. Like an old wound that has stopped bleeding but never stopped aching. The wood is smooth, where hands have held it too long. Too often, the warmth of generations trapped in its grain. You grip it tighter than you need to, not to anchor yourself, but to remember the shape of holding on. The metal blade at its end is dull, dark with earth that has caked into permanence. And when you lift it, the motion feels as if it begins in someone else's body, someone older, someone bent, before settling into your own bones like a truth you no longer fight. You step forward. The wind passes through the grass like breath over skin. Barely enough to move your hair, but enough to make your eyes sting. Then, with no ceremony, you strike. The first thrust into the soil is reluctant. The earth groaning beneath you as if it too resents waking. A clump rises, heavy and wet, clinging to itself in defiance. You knock it loose. Again. The rhythm begins not with your arms, but your breath, shallow and steady, fogging into the air and vanishing before it can settle. You fall into it slowly, the pattern tightening around you like a rope, like a lullaby sung in the wrong key. Each motion is an echo of the last lift. Arc, drop, drag, lift, and the sound of the blade carving through dirt becomes a kind of language, low and wordless, that speaks only to your ribs and the places behind your eyes. The cold travels up through your soles, lingers in your calves, and takes root behind your knees. You keep your eyes low, watching the soil instead of the sky, because the sky offers nothing but distance. Your breath grows heavier, not from effort, but from accumulation. Each exhale, layered over the last, like the ash at the bottom of an old hearth. You bend and straighten. Bend and straighten. And in that movement is a kind of surrender. You are not fighting the earth. You are becoming part of it. Slowly, breath by breath. The soil under your feet is not cruel. It is simply indifferent. It asks nothing but everything. A wind stirs again, sharp enough to sting your cheeks. And you turn your face from it, not in resistance, but in quiet acceptance. Your hands ache. The skin across your knuckles has begun to split. You flex your fingers just to feel them, to know they still belong to you, somewhere far off. Someone coughs. Someone else calls out, but the sounds are muffled, like voices underwater, distant and soft and meant for someone else. You are alone here. Even if you are not the only body in the field, the ache in your spine is familiar now. A slow-burning thread that weaves itself through your hips and down your legs, pulling your posture into something crooked but workable. Time begins to loosen. The light shifts, but you do not track it. There is no before, no after. Only the moment your breath catches and the blade sinks too deep, jarring your arms with a quiet shiver. You straighten with a hiss, and for a moment, you see your breath hang in the air, a ghost of effort. A prayer that dissolves before it can be answered. You rest your hands on your knees. Staring at the earth, you've turned dark. Wet, resistant, and it stares back, offering no thanks. There is no praise in this world, only continuance. You glance sideways, catch glimpses of others, a back hunched like yours, a tunic stained the same way, a face shadowed beneath a hood. No one speaks. The silence is not oppressive. It is simply true. The crows overhead cry again, their calls sharp and senseless, cutting across the pale sky like black knives. You listen, not to the sound, but to what it doesn't say. You wipe your brow with your sleeve, and the fabric leaves a smear of dirt across your forehead. You do not clean it. There is no point. The filth is part of you now. It seeps in with the cold, the repetition, the quiet grief that comes from doing a thing not because you choose to, but because it is what you were born into. The row ahead is long. Behind you, the earth you've broken lies like a wound, slowly clotting. You do not turn to look at it. You simply lift the hoe, take one step forward, and begin again. You move farther into the field, and the world behind you dissolves no hearth. No bucket. No names. Only this breath and soil, the clinging chill of air that never quite leaves your skin. The hoe is heavier now, though its weight has not changed. Only the part of you carrying it has grown more distant, more folded in. Your body becomes something functional, a thing to be used. The hands that hold the handle are yours, but only in name. The rest of you floats somewhere behind your ribs, behind your eyes, watching as you work, quietly waiting for the day to end. The sun never quite breaks through the clouds, and the light stays the same shade of quiet gray, as though the sky itself is unsure whether to rise or retreat. You do not mind. Sunlight would only show the bruises in the furrowed ground, the wear in your clothing, the way your breath frosts, even now with every exhale. Somewhere near your boots, a beetle crawls across the churned-up soil, undisturbed by your labor, untouched by the weight of human hunger. You watch it for a moment, its legs delicate, purposeful, cleaner than your hands have been in weeks. Then it vanishes beneath a clump of turned earth, and the moment is gone. You shift your grip again. The knotted joints in your fingers protest, and a crack along your thumb begins to bleed. You suck the skin without thinking, the copper taste of your own blood. Familiar? Ordinary. Less startling than cold water or sudden sound. Your stomach tightens with emptiness. But it is not the kind that demands to be fed. It is the kind that simply reminds you you're still alive. You work until your arms feel filled with water, heavy and slow. The wind picks up again, curling through the stubble of grass and across the backs of your legs, finding every seam in your clothing, every flaw in the weave. You pull your cloak tighter, but it does little. The cold is not sharp now. It is full, deep, layered. It moves through you like breath through cloth, soft and certain. You straighten, not because you are done, but because you cannot bend any longer. The pain in your back has taken root. You lean on the hoe like an old friend and look across the field. The turned soil gleams in patches, wet and dark, a broken mirror of the sky. Beyond the furrows, trees lean in the wind, their bare limbs scratching against one another like whispers too dry to carry. Your breath catches again. You do not cry. You do not speak. You only stand, swaying slightly, listening to the sound of the world, not quite turning, somewhere behind you. Another tool clinks against stone, and someone mutters words too soft to understand. Carried away before they reach you. The ache in your knees pulses like a second heart. You close your eyes and let the wind hold your face for a moment. Cold fingers against your cheek. Your eyelids. Your lips. It smells of smoke and soil and something faintly green, as though a spring that hasn't come yet is still daring to try. You open your eyes again, and the field is still there. Unchanged. Unbothered. You reach for the hoe. Not because you want to. Not because you should. But because that is what you do. You lift it. And the motion is both the end of something and the beginning of something else. And then you step forward. Quietly. And begin again. You return to the edge of the village, not with triumph or relief, but with a silence so thick inside you, it hums beneath your skin. The hoe rests across your shoulder like a yoke of smoke. Its weight neither present nor absent. Only known deeply in the bones of your collar. The slope of your back. Your legs move without asking. Shins caked in mud that has hardened in places, cracked in others, tight against your skin like old bandages. Each step sounds soft. Not for lack of weight, but because the ground has grown used to you. The world is colorless now. Or maybe you are simply too tired to notice the difference between brown and gray. The cottages blur into one another, their edges frayed by the damp and the wind. Roofs sagging like shoulders. Somewhere, a dog barks once, then gives up. You pass a pile of firewood stacked against a wall. The logs dark and wet and moss-bitten. And for a moment, your gaze lingers not because you want fire, but because you've forgotten what warmth feels like when it isn't borrowed from breath or body. You reach the door and lean your head against the wood for a heartbeat longer than you should. It smells of smoke and grease, of old hands, of the many times it has opened and closed and opened again. Your breath catches on the inhale, a sharp seam of cold down your throat. And when you finally push the door open, it creaks like something remembering. Inside, nothing has changed. The light is the same, low amber. The fire, a stubborn smudge in the hearth. The air greets you with its usual warmth thin. Smoky? And just enough. You step through it like water, shedding nothing, only sinking in. You place the hoe beside the wall with care that surprises even you. Not reverence, just fatigue so complete, it makes every motion deliberate. Your fingers do not uncurl easily. They stay bent a moment longer than they should, and when they finally straighten, the skin splits in 3 places. Fine, and red, and quiet. No one notices. Someone is singing softly near the fire. Something wordless. Something old. You do not ask who. It doesn't matter. The pot simmers, releasing a thin steam that smells of roots and patience. And your stomach tightens again. But you do not move toward it yet. You sit, on the same place, on the same bench, with the same posture, the same wear in the wood pressing into the backs of your thighs. The cloak is still around your shoulders. Damp now, smelling faintly of the field. You do not remove it. The heat from the hearth touches your shins, makes them sting faintly. Like thawing meat, you close your eyes, and in that breathless moment between one thought and the next, you almost forget the cold. You hear the creak of someone shifting, the scrape of a bowl across the floor, the sigh of the fire as it settles. All of it folds around you like a blanket that cannot be seen or touched, only felt in the stillness that follows labor. Your body aches not with pain, but with the fullness of use, as if every muscle has told its story and now waits for silence. You let your hands fall into your lap. You do not speak. There is no need. In this house, words are for function. The rest is known. The bowl is placed in your hands without a word. Its rim warm and slightly rough, chipped in one corner where time or clumsiness or both have left their mark. You hold it for a moment before lifting it, letting the heat seep into your palms like something remembered. Not quite comfort. Not quite pine. The pottage inside is thinner tonight. Less root. More water. A cloudy broth that carries the faint memory of something once green. You stir it with a worn wooden spoon. The motion slow, circular, as if hoping the act alone might draw more substance from the bottom. When you finally taste it, it scalds the tip of your tongue. Not with flavor, but with heat. It tastes of boiled earth, of yesterday's turnip, of smoke and distance. You chew because it is expected, because the body must be fed to keep moving. Each swallow slides down your throat like a stone softened by rain. The others eat around you in near silence. The only sounds the clink of spoons, the low groan of wood under shifting weight, the soft murmur of the fire continuing its sloting scraded. Eternal work. No one complains. Complaints are luxuries, like butter or laughter. You glance across the room and see your brother hunched over his bowl, eyes half closed, chewing with the blank focus of someone halfway to sleep. Beyond him, your mother feeds the baby in her lap with careful fingers, humming something that might be a lullaby or might simply be the rhythm of her breath. The child's mouth smacks against her hand. Your father says nothing, his shadow stretched long against the wall. Unmoving, when the food is gone, you set the bowl down at your feet and fold your hands around your knees. The warmth of the meal lingers in your belly, faint and temporary, like a memory you cannot hold. You feel it begin to fade even as you try to hold it in place. Outside, the sky has deepened into a blue, so dark it could be black. The edges of the world have vanished, the village dissolving into quiet outlines and the hush between stars. You feel the night pressing in, not with fear, but with weight, as though it rests its hands gently on your shoulders, coaxing your bones downward, one by one. The others drift into their own rituals of sleep, laying out bedding, adding a log to the fire, brushing crumbs from their laps with slow, thoughtful hands. You rise when it is your turn to lie down, finding your place among the others, where warmth is shared without asking, without thanks. The straw mattress is uneven beneath you, the blanket scratchy, heavy with the scent of smoke, wool, and something older. You curl onto your side and close your eyes, not to escape, but to sink, to fall back into the dark space where time loses its edges. The fire cracks once, and then again. The only sound in the room besides breath. Your hand rests against your belly, Your spine curls like a question. Sleep comes not as relief, but as surrender. And just before it takes you, you feel a single strand of hair fall across your cheek. And you do not move it away. You wake slowly. Not from sound or light, but from the gradual return of sensation, the ache in your neck, where your head has pressed too long against the hard edge of a bundled tunic. The numbness in your hip, where the straw beneath you has shifted into knots. The soft weight of someone's foot resting against your calf. You do not open your eyes yet. The air tells you all you need to know. It is colder than yesterday. The kind of cold that sinks, that curls into the hollows beneath your ribs and wraps around the bones of your fingers like twine. You draw the blanket tighter around your shoulders, but it is no longer warm, only heavy. It carries the night with it, and the night has not been kind. You breathe through your nose and taste the same damp wool, the faint tang of ash, the ghost of pottage in the air. A child stirs nearby, whimpers once, then falls silent again. The fire has gone out completely, leaving only the scent of what once burned. You can hear the wood creak above you as the wind outside presses gently against the thatch. Not strong, but steady. An old hand shaking the bones of the house. You finally blink your eyes open and find the world unchanged. Dim, still, familiar in the way. Pain is familiar. You lift your head, and it feels like lifting stone. The others are still sleeping, their bodies layered together for warmth. A tapestry of limbs and shared breath. No one speaks. There is no need. The day will not wait, and neither will the work. You sit up slowly, letting your joints wake in stages, each one stiff with the echo of yesterday. Your back protests. A low throb beneath the shoulder blades, a deeper pull down your spine. Your feet touch the floor, cold and unwelcoming. And for a moment, you simply sit there, hands in your lap, listening to the room breathe. A kettle clinks softly from where it rests near the hearth. Long since cooled. A chicken outside scratches at the dirt, and the sound reaches you faintly. Like memory, you stretch your fingers one by one, feeling the cracks in your skin, the dirt beneath your nails. You rub your palms together, not to clean them, but to feel the heat of friction, to remind yourself you still can. Your tunic hangs on the peg by the door, limp and stiff, smelling of salt and smoke. You pull it on over your shift, wincing as the fabric brushes against your shoulders, against the places that never quite heal. Your belt is a length of twine, frayed at one end, tied the same way each morning until the knot comes without thought. You braid your hair back with fingers that barely bend, twisting it tight against your scalp to keep it from your eyes. There is no mirror, no time for vanity, only the rhythm of preparation. You stand, briefly ditzy, and brace yourself on the wall. Your knees tremble. You whisper something, not a prayer. Not exactly, but something between a sigh and a wish. The day has begun again. Not with light or promise, but with weight, and so you lift it. And begin. You step outside, with your breath held tight, as if the cold might crack you open. If given the chance to reach too far in, the morning air meets your face like a slap from a soft hand, gentle but unignorable. Personal. It smells of frost and wood smoke, of the faint wetness that gathers before snow, Though no snow has yet fallen, the sky hangs low above the village, stretched pale and endless, a ceiling with no seams. You exhale slowly and watch the breath drift upward, shapeless and fleeting, before it vanishes into the colorless hush. Around you, the houses are still, their windows dark, their roofs hunched beneath damp thatch. You hear no voices, only the muffled shuffling of a nearby goat, the tick of wood as it contracts in the cold, the quiet sigh of wind moving through brittle stalks left in the fields. Your feet find the path instinctively, skimming the ground in slow steps, not out of laziness, but conservation. A body that must carry you through another day cannot waste energy on haste. The mud has hardened overnight, puckered into uneven ridges that press into your soles. Each step tells you exactly where you are. You pass the edge of the well and glance at it without stopping. Its stones are rimmed in white, frost clinging like lace around the lip. You know the rope will be stiff this morning, the bucket sluggish to pull. But that comes later. Now is only the walk, the slow approach, the ritual of becoming part of the world again. The fields are waiting for you, and the silence between now and reaching them is almost sacred. A slow quiet curls around your thoughts, not empty, but wide, like the space between stars. You feel the ache in your arms before you reach for anything, the memory of yesterday's weight whispering its presence in your shoulders. Your elbows, your spine. The body does not forget. Even when the mind tries to, you pause at the edge, not from indecision, but from reverence. A moment to breathe before offering yourself again. The tool leans against the low fence where you left it. Your hoe? Your companion? Your tether? You lift it and feel the imprint of your grip. Find the handle, as if it has remembered you too. A crow startles from a post nearby and flies off, its wings beating the air with a noise like torn cloth. You do not flinch. You step forward. The soil crunches beneath your feet where the frost has sunk deepest. Your breath moves steadily now, measured, warming the inside of your tunic in slow circles. You reach the first row and place the blade. And again, the motion begins, not like thunder or music, but like a lullaby hummed half asleep. You carve the line, you lift the earth, you breathe, and behind your eyes, somewhere deep, where the world is quietest, you begin to disappear into the day. The sun never quite rises. It hovers instead, caught somewhere behind the thick veil of cloud that swells across the sky like damp wool hung too long over the hearth. Heavy and unwilling to lift. Its light is not light, but the absence of shadow. A dull silver smear that softens everything it touches until edges blur tree into ground, roof into sky, hand into tool. You are already in the field when you notice it, already waist deep in the quiet ritual of the day. The soil beneath you is reluctant. It yields in clumps, unwilling, wet with memory and the weight of seasons. You dig into it with the same care and the same weariness you give to everything now, half-hearted in motion, but full-hearted in necessity. The hoe is colder today, the wood holding a thin seam of frost that does not melt against your palm. You do not flinch. You do not wear gloves. Your skin is your armor, cracked and bruised as it is. And each split along your knuckles is a line written in the language of survival. The chill has worked its way into your wrists. dulling the joints until they respond like rusted hinges, functional, but only just. You bend, lift, drag, straighten, and in that sequence, there is no thought. Only the body doing what it must. The weight of the hose shifts through your shoulder, down your spine, grounding you. Each movement is a slow prayer, unspoken and unending. Around you, the field lies quiet. The other workers, distant but present. Figures moving in the same rhythm. Heads low. Backs curved like branches under snow. No one speaks. Words feel too sharp for this landscape. Too sudden. The crows overhead are the only ones that cry. Their voices harsh and distant, like laughter from a place you do not remember how to return to. They spiral above in loose circles, dipping low. Watching. You do not look up. The sky has stopped offering you anything but vastness. Instead, you keep your eyes low, close to the earth, where the small truths live stones pushed up from below. Roots that cling to nothing. Worms folding in on themselves in the cold. You watch them as you dig, your breath fogging with every exhale. And you marvel not at their existence, but at how unbothered they are by yours. The field does not notice your pain. The soil does not soften because your hands are swollen. The wind does not ease because your breath is short. These things simply are, and you have learned to live beside them, not with resistance, but with a kind of tired respect. You straighten once, slowly, cautiously, and the pain that rises from your lower back blooms wide and familiar, like a flower that opens only in frost. You close your eyes, just for a moment, and feel the cold move over your eyelids like water. Behind them, there is only red. There are no visions, no memories, only the thrum of blood in your temples and the slow ebb of exhaustion. You open your eyes again. The field is still there, unchanged. The furrows run crooked but earnest, a record of your presence etched in mud and effort. Your hands find the hoe again, without hesitation. You do not need to think about it. It belongs to you in a way that nothing else does. Its weight is the one thing you do not question. You press it back into the earth and begin another row. Your shoulders ache with the motion. A deep pulsing beneath the blades. But it's an ache, you understand? There's comfort in its consistency. You shift your stance slightly. Feet planted wider now. Knees bent just enough to carry the motion through your whole frame. Your breath grows steady again, fogging the air in rhythm with the blade. You test salt on your lips, the residue of your own body's endurance, and you lick it away without thinking. It reminds you of broth, of the sea you have never seen, of tears you do not shed. A voice calls faintly in the distance, muffled by wind, by space, by silence, but you do not lift your head. It is not your name. It is never your name. You keep working. Around you, the cold holds steady. The sky does not break. The light does not change. Time folds in on itself like wool, pulled close, thick and formless. You do not know how long you've been here. You do not care. All you know is the weight of the tool in your hand, the pull in your muscles, the dark line of soil stretching forward. Waiting, always waiting. And you, always answering. One breath, one furrow, one step at a time. You pause only when your body insists. Not in words, but in the sudden, dull burn behind your eyes. The tremble in your legs that spreads slowly like thaw through frozen cloth. You lean on the hoe and let the weight of it settle into the earth. Its blade half buried, as though even the tool itself needs a moment of rest. You straighten your back, slow and careful, feeling the brittle pull of muscle and sinew stretched beyond comfort. The sky above you remains a seamless curtain of grey. The same shade as morning. The same as yesterday. The same as the inside of your thoughts. You do not look for sun anymore. You no longer wish for color. You have grown into the grey. Like a tree learns the shape of the wind. You close your eyes and feel the field breathe beneath your boots, not literally, but in the way the earth seems to rise and fall beneath you. Not in movement, but in weight. In temperature. In the ancient stillness of things that have outlived you already, the wind brushes past your face like a hand. Soft and cold. Threading through the strands of your hair that have come loose, tucking itself behind your ears. Whispering, nothing you can understand. You taste ash in the air, distant hearth smoke. Someone else's warmth and your stomach shifts. Not in hunger, but in longing so faint, it barely has shape. You remember a time when you could name the seasons by smell. Now they bleed into each other. Cold into wet, wet into work, work into sleep. And then again, you lift the hoe once more. The ache never leaves, it only moves. From shoulder to elbow. From elbow to wrist. From wrist to the soft pocket of your palm, where the calluses never fully form. Your fingers close around the handle out of habit. Not hope. You die again. The earth parts. A furrow opens. Another one waits. And as you work, the sound of your own breath becomes the only music. The slow, wet hiss through your teeth. The faint grunt that slips from your chest with each lift. The rhythm of lungs pressed by effort and cold. These are the songs you know best. These are the prayers your body remembers, even when your mind does not. You think of warmth only in fragments, the press of another body beside you at night. The steam rising from a pot. The curl of fingers around a cup, not yet cooled. These thoughts come like ghosts, gentle, silent, vanishing when you try to hold them. You focus instead on the blade, on the curve of the field, on the small stones that bite into your soles through thin leather. Each sensation is a tether. Each one reminds you that you are here. Still, your breath grows louder. The wind answers. Somewhere, a crow calls again, and its cry cuts through the gray like a thread through cloth sharp. Purposeful. Alone. You do not look up. You finish the row. Then you begin the next. And the next. And the next. Because that is what you do. That is what the day asks of you. And in the quiet, unmarked stretch of time between start and end, you let it shape you once more. You return home with the field still clinging to your clothes, to your skin, to the hollow space between your shoulder blades where the cold has lived all day. Your hands hang heavy at your sides, red with effort. The lines of soil etched into your palms like faint scars. Proof that you were there, that you moved the earth and it did not refuse you. The path home is the same as it was this morning, but it feels longer now, as though the day has stretched it beneath your feet. Each step a quiet negotiation between exhaustion and the promise of stillness. You do not think of what waits for you at the end. You think only of putting one foot forward, then the other, and how the world softens slightly with each motion. How the noise of your breath becomes more bearable when you focus on its rhythm instead of its weight. The village is quiet. Doors are closed. Windows shuttered. Smoke curling out of chimneys in thin gray lines that blur against the sky. No one speaks. No one waves. But you feel them. Behind the walls. Moving through the same silence. Carrying their own aches. Their own weariness. Wrapped in wool and wood smoke. You pass a bundle of firewood left by a doorway. Each log stacked with care. And you wonder who did it if their hands shook like yours. If their breath trembled in the same way. The thought passes. You walk on. The cold brushes past your ankles like a cat. Familiar and demanding. And the dirt on your skin begins to stiffen as the warmth of your body seeps away. When you reach the door, you pose. Not because you need to, but because it is a ritual now to stand there. Just long enough to let the air settle around you, to let the evening press itself into your clothes so you don't carry it inside. The wood of the door is dry and rough beneath your fingers. And when you push it open, it resists slightly, swollen with damp. Inside, the room is darker than you remember. The fire is low, burning with the patience of something left alone too long. The glow casting faint shadows on the faces of those already gathered near it. You do not speak. No one does. Words feel too loud in this hush, too sharp. You step inside and close the door behind you. The wind tugging at the hem of your tunic as it leaves. The heat greets you slowly. Like an old friend, you no longer trust to stay. You move toward the hearth, shedding nothing. Only letting your body find the space it knows best. The spot where your weight fits the floor. Where your shoulders curve just so. You crouch there, hands out, feeling the fire on your skin, letting it seep into your bones. The pain begins to rise as the warmth does a low, steady throb in your fingers, your knees, your back. As though your body is remembering itself in pieces. You do not cry out. You let it come. You breathe into it. You hold your hands closer to the flame and watch the skin shift from pale to pink, to red, and then to stillness again. And you think I am here? I am not done. The day is not finished, but I am still inside it. You eat what is given to you without asking what it is. The bowl is pressed into your hands. Its clay rim faintly warm, still damp near the base from the steam of whatever it holds. You cradle it the way you might hold a sleeping bird gently, carefully, as though it might break or fly away if you grasp too tightly. The contents are thin tonight, more broth than meal, and you can see the pale threads of root vegetable curling like ghosts beneath the surface. You lift the spoon to your lips and sip slowly, not for savoring, but because your mouth is too tired to do more. The taste is plain, earthy, and faintly bitter, like bark steeped in water. But it settles into your belly with the slow comfort of something that will keep you upright one day longer. You eat in silence, surrounded by others who do the same, each hunched over their own small warmth, chewing and swallowing with quiet focus. No one speaks. The fire crackles softly behind you, its light flickering across the walls, painting the room in slow, pulsing amber. Shadows stretch and shift with the movement of shoulders, the tilt of spoons, The long exhale after the bowl is emptied. You listen to these sounds the way one listens to rain without expectation. Only presence. The steam curls against your face and clings to your lashes, softening everything. You do not know how long you sit there, but eventually your hands lower. The bowl emptied. Your fingers stained faintly with the memory of warmth. You do not rise. Not yet. You lean forward, elbows on your knees, and let your chin rest in the cradle of your hands. Eyes half-lidded. Body swaying with the faint rhythm of the fire. The weariness inside you is not sharp, not sudden. It is wide and deep and constant, like a river moving beneath the earth. Slow enough to forget, but strong enough to shape everything above it. You feel it in your jaw, your shoulders, your spine. In the way your thoughts come slower now, each one dragging a soft weight behind it. Someone laughs. Quietly, gently. In the corner of the room, a sound, not of joy, but of recognition, of the shared absurdity of living. It does not startle you. It simply joins the warmth and the smoke and the night. You close your eyes for a breath, then another, letting the air move through you, like something almost kind, behind your lids. There are no dreams yet, only darkness, and the echo of your own pulse. And then you rise, slow as a tide, joints stiff but obedient, and move toward the bed of straw waiting in the far corner. The blanket is still damp along the hem, but it holds the shape of your body from the night before. You lower yourself into it, curling inward without thought. The cold finds you again, but softer now, muffled by the fire's dying breath and the weight of your own stillness. You close your eyes, and this time, there is no hesitation. You drift downward, not into escape, but into rest. A quiet kind, a necessary kind, the kind that does not ask you to dream, only to stop carrying the day. If only for a while. The morning does not arrive all at once. It seeps in slowly, like chill through wool, finding the softest places first behind the knees, at the nape of your neck, in the hollows where your ribs curve in towards silence. You feel it before you see it. The faint hum of waking in your bones. The stretch of thought, returning to your limbs like threads pulled through a loom. You do not open your eyes yet. There is no urgency. No bell tolls. No voice calls your name. Only breath. Your own and others, rising and falling in uneven rhythms across the room. Some fast, like a child dreaming. Some shallow, like your father, always breathing just beneath the surface of sleep. The fire has long since gone out, but its memory lingers in the air, a faint warmth tucked into the floorboards. The ashes holding onto the last embers like hands cupped around a whisper. The blanket over you is damp along the edge where your breath collected in the night, heavy with its own stillness, its own story of unmoving hours. You shift your weight just slightly, and the straw beneath you hisses in protest, bending, but not breaking. It carries the shape of your body still, and you wonder how many nights it will take before that shape becomes permanent, becomes a part of the straw's own memory. You pull your knees closer to your chest beneath the blanket and listen to the crack in the wall whistling faintly, to the murmur of someone turning in sleep, to the roof above you groaning as the frost begins to lift. Outside, the wind stirs something small, perhaps a loose shutter. Perhaps the branches of the bare tree beside the house, and the sound reaches you like a lullaby forgotten halfway through. You wonder if the sun has risen, or if it is simply lighter than it was. The sky in winter does not announce itself. It only fades from black to less black, from darkness to something like breath held in a closed mouth. Your eyes open to the same room as always, shaped by the same shadows, softened by the same gray. The others are still sleeping. Your brother, curled like a comma beneath the old wool cloak. Your mother, turned toward the wall, one hand resting near her throat. The baby beside her has stopped fussing, at least for now. Its small body barely more than a lump beneath the folds of blanket. You watch them for a moment, not with affection exactly, but with a kind of quiet knowing. These are the bodies you rise beside. These are the lives that breathe beside yours. There is comfort in their stillness, even when there is no room for joy. You turn your head and look toward the hearth. The stones are blackened, dulled by smoke and years of flame. The pot is cold, the iron lid streaked with moisture. You think about rising, about placing one foot on the ground, about the shock of air against bare skin, but you stay where you are a little longer. Not out of laziness, not out of weakness, but because the moment has not passed yet. The moment of warmth still clinging to your chest, of stillness holding you without asking anything in return. Your body aches, but not in new ways. The ache is familiar, deep and old, like the smell of the walls or the groan of the floorboards. It is the way you carry time. You shift again, testing your limbs, finding which joints will move freely today and which will resist. Your shoulder stiffens as you roll it, the muscles tight from yesterday's work. The weight of the hoe still ghosted across your back. Your hands curl without you meaning them to, as though trying to hold on to something that isn't there. You open them slowly. Stretch each finger. Look at your palms. The skin is dry. Pale in places, raw in others. The faint lines of effort written like frost over hard ground. You rub them together. Not to warm them though they are cold, but simply to feel them move. You pull the blanket from your shoulders and sit up fully, letting the morning wrap around you. The air inside the cottage is layered smoke. Wool. Breath. Wood. You breathe it in. Let it fill your chest. Let it remind you of where you are. There is no fire. No light. No sound beyond what the body makes when it wakes. And yet, there is something here. In this grayness, in this breath-held hush, that feels whole. You place your feet on the floor and feel the wood beneath them. Cold. Splintered. Certain. You rise, not for the day, not for duty, but for rhythm, because the sun may not have come, but the world has already begun. You stand for a long moment in the dim, letting the weight of your own body settle beneath you, feeling where the night has left its trace not only in your joints, but in your breath, in the still thick quiet of your thoughts. You stretch your arms above your head and feel the cold roll down your spine like water from a broken gutter. Slow and seeping, the shift in your tunic releases a breath of warmth trapped beneath your clothing, quickly replaced by air sharp enough to sting. You walk softly across the room, the floor cool and uneven beneath your feet, and kneel by the hearth. The coals are black, the last of the heat long spent. but you press your hand close, just the same, hoping for a ghost of warmth, a leftover sigh of fire. There is none. You do not sigh. You gather kindling from the corner bits of straw. Dry bark. A twist of cloth too torn for mending, and place it carefully. Your hand slow? Steady. Patient. You blow gently into the base of the ashes. Your breath trembling in the cold air. A small offering of warmth. There is a flicker. Then a glow. Then a small crackle like laughter too soft to hear. You feed it more. Bark. More straw. Until the glow becomes flame. Low and cautious. Like a child learning to walk, you sit back on your heels and watch it grow. You do not rush it. You let it take its time. Light returns in fragments on the edge of a bowl, on the curve of a cheek, on your fingers, pale and cracked as bark. You hold your hands out and feel the skin tighten as the cold lifts, little by little. Someone stirs behind you. You hear the shifting of cloth, the creak of old floorboards under weight, the clearing of a throat, not yet ready for words. You do not turn. There is no need. The morning has begun now. Not with the sun, but with movement, with breath, with the slow relighting of all that had gone dim. You rise again and lift the kettle, the iron cold against your palms, and carry it outside to the well. The door groans when you open it, but the sky beyond has not changed. Still grey, still vast, still waiting. The air outside bites harder than it did inside, and you squint into it, your eyes watering, not from emotion, but from wind. The path to the well is lined with frost-bitten grass, and the tips crunch beneath your steps. Faint and brittle, the rope is stiff as you draw it up, and the bucket groans as it hits the water, deep and slow. The splash is quiet. You draw it back carefully, the iron handle burning your skin where it touches. You carry the full weight in both hands, water sloshing close to the rim, your arms trembling with the strain. When you return, the door opens with a softer sound. The fire has taken hold now. The air inside is thicker, warmer. Holding onto the light like a secret, you place the kettle on its hook, and the water sighs as it warms. Behind you, the room continues, its slow awakening blankets folded, boots pulled on, shoulders rolled, words exchanged in soft fragments. You sit again by the fire and hold your hands out, the heat soaking into your skin like forgiveness. For a little while, you do not move. For a little while, you are only breath and warmth. And waiting, you step outside again when the water begins to warm. Not because you are told to, not because the hour demands it, but because your body has learned the rhythm of leaving. The cold greets you differently now, not as an enemy, not as a friend, but as something that simply is, like the weight of your own name, or the way the sky stretches itself over the village without end. The air is sharper than it was before, but your skin knows it already, has remembered how to carry it without flinching. You walk past the same patch of frozen grass, the same ruts worn into the path by feet that are not just yours, but others, your brothers, your mothers, your fathers, the ones who came before, pressed into earth with the same quiet persistence. Each print is softened by frost, rimmed in white, faintly glinting in the sallow light. You pass the chicken coop, hear the restless cluck of wings, feel the dull thud of movement in the straw. But you do not stop, you move slowly, letting your breath rise and fall with the rhythm of your steps. The field is waiting, as it always does, not with impatience, not with grace, but with the flat, wide stillness of something too old to care. Whether you come willingly, you stand at the edge and look out, not to measure the rows, not to anticipate their end, but to feel the space they hold. It stretches long and brown and gray, softened by the cold. The furrows from the last day still etched in the soil like an unfinished sentence. You lift the hoe again, its handle familiar against your palm. The balance of it shifting as you move it from one hand to the other, checking the stiffness in your wrists. The weight has not changed, but it settles differently now, deeper into your shoulder, as if the tool itself is learning how your bones bend. You step into the first row, and the world narrows around you. Not in fear, not in dread, but in focus. The air closes in, soft and dense, wrapping around your ears, muting everything. There is no sound but the crunch of your boots in the hardened mud, the creak of your arm as it lifts, the dull rhythm of the blade biting into the earth. You fall into the motion without effort, because it is not a task, it is a memory passed down through your muscles. Through the breath you take in and the breath you let go, the wind moves through the bare branches in the distance, and the sound it makes is low and steady, like a voice humming beneath its breath. You do not look up. There is nothing in the sky that changes the ground. Your feet find the rhythm. Your hands follow, and time begins to stretch not forward, not back, but outward, wide and slow. Like cloth pulled taut across a frame, you lose the shape of the hour. You lose the edge of your own thoughts. And in its place, there is only the warmth beginning to rise in your chest from the labor, the dull sting in your palms, the faint sound of a crow in the distance, and the earth opening beneath you again. You work until your arms hum, not with pain exactly, but with a fullness, a deep saturation that spreads slowly through your shoulders, down your spine, into your thighs. The warmth it brings is not comfort, not relief, but a kind of illusion, a trick the body plays to keep itself moving. You recognize it now? The false fire of effort, how it makes your fingers feel alive, even as the skin splits at the joints. You lean into it anyway. You bend and lift and bend again. And each movement draws the cold out of your chest and pushes it down into the soil. Where it disappears, the sky remains the same colorless veil, soft and indifferent, the kind that never tells you what time it is, only that it continues. You do not need the sun to move. You only need the row in front of you. You glance back once, just to see the lines your hands have carved, how the earth has changed shape beneath your effort. It is not beauty, but it is something close to order. And for a moment, that is enough. The others move nearby your brother, 2 rows over. Your father farther still, but you do not speak. Words are too fragile here, too clean. What you do with your hands is louder than anything you could say. The language of labor is slow and exacting. You speak it with your breath, with your silence, with the small sounds of weight shifting in your boots, and the way the blade strikes rock and skips. Your mouth is dry now. Your throat lined with the dust that floats up from the earth as you disturb it. You taste it at the corners of your lips, bitterness. Grit. The memory of roots long dead. You pose. Only for a moment. Resting the hoe against your thigh. And let your arms hang loosely by your sides. Your fingers tremble faintly. The wind stirs again, and you lift your face to it. Eyes closed. Letting it touch your cheeks. Your lash. The curve of your jaw. It is not tender. It is not cruel. It is only there. Like everything else. You breathe it in, and it tastes like smoke and sky and distance. For a breath, you are still. And then the moment passes, not loudly, not suddenly, just quietly. Like a leaf falling unseen into snow. You lift the hoe again. You step forward. The next row waits. There is no urgency. The field will take what you can give and no more. You think of the hearth, of the smell of broth warming slowly, of the weight of the blanket across your legs at the end of the day. You think of these things not as longing, but as markers, soft flags placed along the path to tell you that, yes, you are still moving, still part of the pattern. The cold is back in your fingertips now. You grip the tool tighter, and with the same breath you've been carrying since morning. You begin again. You return home when the sky begins to deepen. Though not in color, the gray does not darken so much as it thickens, becoming heavier, folding in on itself like wool, soaked in river water. The edges of things begin to blur. Trees lose their limbs to shadow. The fence line softens. Smoke from the neighboring hearths no longer rises, but hangs suspended, draped between houses, like an old shawl hung out to dry and forgotten. Your footsteps are slower now, not just from fatigue, though it settles in your bones like silt, but because your body has become too full of the day to move quickly. Every part of you carries weight, the earth clinging to your boots, the sweat dried into your skin, the ache nested in your lower back. Warm and constant. You carry the hoe loosely in one hand, letting its handle bump gently against your leg. A sound, as familiar now as breath, your other hand trails by your side. Fingers brushing the coarse edge of your tunic, occasionally twitching from the cold. From memory. You do not look up. The sky does not matter. The air smells of evening damp soil. Wood smoke. The faint sharpness of livestock and sweat. Not unpleasant. Just known. Just part of you now. The path bends slightly near the old tree stump. The one your grandfather carved his mark into before your father was born. And your feet follow it without needing to see. You could walk this way blind. Sometimes, it feels like you already do. You reach the door, and for a moment, you rest your forehead against it. The wood is cool and uneven. Its grain pressed into your skin like the lines of a hand you've shaken too many times to count. You close your eyes, just for the span of a few breaths. And in that stillness, you feel something like release, not relief, not peace, but the soft unwinding of something tightly held. You open the door with care. The hinge creaks, low and familiar, and the air inside greets you with its layered warmth fire. Bodies, broth, old wool, breath. The light is low. The fire burning steady but small. The room lit mostly by its glow, and the slow shifting of people moving through it. You step inside and close the door behind you. The noise of the outside world, such as it is, vanishes. You are wrapped again in closeness. In the small sounds of family, a spoon scraping the side of a bowl, the baby murmuring in sleep, your father clearing his throat without speaking. You lean the hoe against the wall. It makes a soft tap against the stone, then slides slightly and comes to rest. You sit, not in a chair, but on the floor near the hearth, letting your legs stretch out, letting your spine curve forward, folding into the shape of someone who has held too much. Your hands rest on your knees. They are red, raw in places, faintly trembling. You hold them up toward the fire, not too close, and watch the heat move over your skin like breath. You do not speak. You do not need to. You are home. You stay near the fire as the room closes in around you, not with pressure, but with presence. With the small weight of shared air and familiar silence, someone places a bowl beside you, and though you do not look up, your fingers move toward it, wrapping around the rough clay-like muscle, remembering its task before thought arrives. The broth is thinner tonight, clearer, almost sweet, from a carrot boiled too long, floating soft and shapeless near the bottom. You raise the bowl to your lips. Sip slowly. It burns a little on the way down. Not painfully, but with the kind of heat that reminds you you are still here, that the day has not taken everything. You close your eyes and let the warmth settle deep into your chest, into the hollow places where breath once caught. The taste is faint, but steady. No salt. No meat. But the hands that stirred it did so with care, and your body does not ask for more. Around you, the others eat too, your brother shifting his weight against the wall, chewing slowly, your mother rocking the baby who has begun to fuss again, her voice barely audible over the fire's low pop. No one speaks. It is not silence. Not exactly. It is understanding. It is breath passing between people who carry the same weight, the same ache, the same unspoken surrender to what the day has asked of them. When the bowl is empty, you set it aside, carefully. The clink of ceramic against stone, soft as a sigh. You lean back slightly, letting your head rest against the wall, the chill of it soaking through your hair. Your eyelids begin to lower without your asking, not from sleep, but from the slow unwinding of effort. The fire crackles again, and the glow flickers across the floor, stretching toward your knees before pulling back again like waves. You watch it for a while, not with focus, but with the vague softness of someone too tired to turn away. The room has grown warmer, though your fingers are still stiff. Your feet still numb. You rub your palms slowly over your shins, feeling the grain of the wool, the texture of your own skin beneath it. You are not clean, not fresh, not new, but you are here, and the fire is burning, and the others are breathing. The day is behind you. You unfold your legs and lie down on the same spot where you lay the night before, where your body fits into the floor like a hand into worn cloth. The blanket is thin, but it smells of smoke and sleep. And that is enough. You curl inward, toward yourself, toward the quiet. Your eyes close, not out of desire, but out of gravity. And as your breath begins to slow, the world narrows again, not into darkness, but into warmth, into stillness, into the soft shape of another night that holds you exactly as you are. You do not remember falling asleep. Only the feeling of waking again with the weight of your own breath already pressing against your chest. Not from panic, but from the simple effort of being alive. The darkness has not lifted. It lingers heavy across the beams of the ceiling, pools beneath the bed frame, clings to your blanket like a second skin. There is a moment before your eyes truly open, where you drift between the silence of sleep and the noise of waking. And in that moment, everything is softer. The pain, the hunger, the ache in your spine. It is not gone, only not yet named again. Your hands are curled against your stomach, one tucked inside the other, your knees drawn close, the blanket pulled up over your shoulders and tucked under your chin the way your mother used to do. Before she stopped moving through the room, before you woke, you lie there, unmoving, letting the thin warmth of your breath gather against the inside of the blanket, warming the tips of your nose, your cheeks, your mouth. You touch the wall. You taste sleep. Your body is stiff, and your eyes sting. Not from tears, but from the cold, from the dry stillness of the night. Someone beside you shifts. Murmurs. The fire has died again. You can feel its absence more than you ever felt its presence. The air is no longer just cold, it is hollow. Like a room left open to wind. Like a cup half full of something that no longer steams. You sit up because there is no other choice. The blanket slips from your shoulders and the cold floods in at once. Sharp and wide and immediate. It makes you gasp. Not loudly, not even in surprise, but in recognition. As if to say, yes. This again. This always. Your feet touch the ground. The wood is hard and rough. And you flinch not from pain, but from the memory of warmth you had forgotten, you still missed. You move slowly, careful not to wake the others. You know where they are without needing to see them. The shape of them is written into the room itself, into the way you move through it. You stand and wrap your arms around yourself, pressing your elbows close, holding in the warmth your body still has. You take a step, then another. Your breath begins to show in the air. Small and white and short-lived. You crouch by the hearth and stir the ashes with a blackened stick. Nothing stirs. No amber glows. You reach for the bundle of kindling. Your fingers move stiffly, without grace, but with knowledge. You build the fire again, not for light, not even for heat, but because it is what comes next. The first spark is slow, unwilling. The second flares and dies. The third catches. You blow gently, and the orange glow rises, soft and uncertain, casting flickering shadows that begin to draw the room back into shape. You sit close to it, hands out, eyes closed. You listen to your breath, to the wind outside, to the soft stretch of another day beginning, and you think, not with words, but with feeling, I am still here. I am still in this. You stay by the fire as it grows, feeding it slowly with splinters and bark and the ends of broken branches, not rushing, not coaxing, only allowing it to return in its own time. The warmth spreads outward in slow circles, licking at your fingers, brushing your cheeks, softening the stiffness in your jaw. You do not move away. You close your eyes and lean closer, letting the light soak into your skin like breath. like water, like something almost holy. Your hands uncurl. The ache in your shoulders begins to dull. Around you, the room begins to shift, blankets stirring. The low rustle of wool, the faint clearing of a throat in the far corner. Still, no one speaks. This is the language of waking the shiver of limbs, the stretch of sleep-warm arms, the creak of floorboards touched by careful feet. You reach for the kettle and hang it above the flame. The iron groans faintly with the weight of water and heat, and you press your palms together, watching as the steam begins to rise. It smells faintly of rust, of smoke, of something clean and empty. You dip your head toward it, breathing it in. It burns your nose. Sharp and good. And you feel the inside of your chest loosen. This is how the day begins, not with words, not with plans, but with the soft arrangement of gestures, small and honest, repeated without question. You do not know what the day will bring, and you do not ask. You will return to the fields. You will bend and lift and dig. You will come home again when the sky fades. But in this moment, you are not in the field. You are not in the cold. You are only here, beside the fire, with warmth on your face and silence in your throat. The baby begins to cry softly, the sound folding into the warmth like a thread. And your mother hums in response. Not loud, not tuneful, but with the same voice she uses to stir the pot or fold the blankets. You listen. You do not speak. Your breath curls gently in the air, meeting the steam from the kettle. 2. Ghosts brushing one another before vanishing. The light grows by inches. The fire reflects in your eyes. The floor, the bowl left empty from last night. You hear a door hinge creak in the wind. Then, still. You do not rise. Not yet. You press your hands one more time toward the heat. Feel the skin grow tight and pink, and then slowly pull away. You stand, stretch, turn toward the room that is no longer dark, and gather what you need. Not everything, just enough. Your cloak, your belt, the scarf tucked into the corner of your bedding. You take a deep breath, low and even, and walk to the door. When you open it, the cold meets you once again. Not gentler, not kinder, but no longer unfamiliar. You nod to it, the way one nods to a neighbor passing in the street. You step into the gray, and the day begins again. You walk the same path you always do. Boots pressing into ground you no longer look at. Each step a gesture learned before memory, before thought. The frost has returned. Not heavy, but enough to etch the edges of the grass, to trace silver lines along the wooden fence, to cling like breath to the rim of the well. The village does not speak. Smoke rises again, thin and grey. From chimneys you have passed every morning since your legs were strong enough to carry you here. Nothing has changed. Yet you feel the air differently today. Not warmer, not lighter, but somehow quieter, as though even the wind has decided to move slowly. Your hands are hidden inside your sleeves, fingers curled, half asleep still, and you do not force them to wake. You let your body arrive one piece at a time. Your breath is steady now, a thin fog that trails behind you, soft and short-lived. There is no one in the lane, no animals in sight, Only the rhythm of your steps and the small shifting sounds your cloak makes as it brushes against your legs. The crunch of frost. The hush of morning holding everything in its open palms. You reach the field without looking for it. And there it is, just as you left it, unchanged. Waiting. The soil is still dark from yesterday's work. The furrows cold and still. The shapes you carved into the earth softened slightly by night air. You step into the first row as if stepping into water. Slow and sure and without hesitation. The hoe is where you left it, leaning against the old post near the edge of the fence. You pick it up without thought, your fingers finding the smooth places in the wood, the worn grip that fits only your hands. Now, the blade is dull, slightly chipped near the tip, and the handle creaks faintly when you shift its weight from one side to the other. You test it once, lifting it in a slow arc, letting it fall into the soil with a soft thud. The sound is right. You begin. The rhythm returns instantly, not from memory, but from the body, from the deep center of motion that never truly sleeps. Lift, drop, drag, breathe. Again. The cold leaves your fingertips as you work, pushed out by heat rising from the core of you. A steady warmth, born not from comfort, but from labor, from friction, from the old language of effort. Your breath begins to fog again, in longer strokes now, and you blink against the dry air, your eyes watering slightly. Not from sadness, not from wind, just from the small betrayals of flesh. The soil gives itself up slowly, breaking apart in your hands. And you do not fight it, you guide it, you shift its weight. You become a part of its shape. There is no sound now, but the blade in the earth and the crows overhead, 3 of them, wheeling slowly, their calls thin and dry. You do not look up. You keep moving. You follow the row, not because it leads anywhere, but because it begins again. Each time you lift your hands, you do not mark the passing of time, not by the sky, not by the ache in your shoulders, not by any clock, but the one inside your limbs. The soft insistence in your knees when they bend too low. The quiet pulse in your wrists. The slow swelling of tiredness gathering in the arches of your feet. The row unfolds before you without end. Not a task to be completed, but a path to be followed. A kind of prayer written in lines of loosened earth. Each step forward is the same as the last. And somehow, that sameness steadies you. You do not think of the end. You think only of the next breath, the next motion, the next patch of cold soil beneath your hands. The wind moves across the field in slow carpless, wide strokes, brushing your face, your back, the tips of your ears. It smells faintly of snow, though none has come. You wonder if it ever will. Winter holds itself at a distance this year. Threatening. Patient. Circling the village like a wolf, too careful to be seen. You pose, just long enough to shift your weight from one foot to the other, and you straighten your back slowly, feeling the muscles pull like rope drawn over stone. Your fingers stretch, crack, close again around the handle of the hoe. You draw a long breath, not because you are tired though you are, but because the air is clean, sharp, and it reminds you that you are still inside the world, somewhere nearby. Your brother coughs. Farther off, A cartwheel creaks. These sounds do not intrude. They belong here. Like the crows. Like the cold. Like the sound of your own breath moving past your teeth. You keep your head low. Your hands move. You reach the end of the row and turn. And begin again. The pattern is not comforting. But it is clear. There is no confusion in this work. No choice. No question. You do not need to think. The blade drops. The soil parts. The cold seeps into your boots and up your legs. And still, you keep moving. There is something beautiful in the repetition, not joy. Not peace. But a softness. A blurring of the self. You forget the edges of your body. You forget the noise inside your chest. You are the motion. You are the line in the dirt. You are the steam rising from your skin and the cold that settles into your bones when you stop. You do not stop. Not yet. The sun is hidden. The sky, still, the color of old wool. And the field has no voice to tell you when enough is enough. You do not ask. You only continue. And somewhere deep in your body, beneath the ache and the effort, there is something still and small and whole. A flame that does not burn. Only glows. A knowing that says this is hard. This is what we do. This is how we stay. You lose count of the rows. Not because they are too many, but because counting has slipped from your mind like water from cupped hands useful once. Unnecessary now. Your body has taken over. It moves without you. Your arms rise and fall in the same rhythm. The same slow sweep of motion that hums in your shoulders. Your elbows? The socket of your spine. The cold has retreated from your skin. Not because the day has warmed, but because your body has turned inward, gathering heat in the center of your chest and pushing it out in waves. Your cheeks are flushed now. Your breath steadier. Thicker. Rising in quiet clouds that drift and vanish. The air around you is still. The clouds above do not shift. The world holds its shape like a bowl, and you move within it like a spoon, carving the same circle again and again. You listen only to what is near. The scrape of metal against earth, the dry cough of a crow in a distant tree, the soft squelch where your boot meets a patch of thawing mud. Nothing breaks the pattern. Nothing interrupts. You are not waiting for change. You are not hoping for ease. There is only this. The feel of the hoe in your hands. The weight of it. The rhythm it demands. And the small relief of watching the soil give way beneath its blade. You are not angry. You are not resigned. You are simply present. Bone deep and wordless. In the shape of the day. Sometimes, between one row and the next, you pause, not long, not enough to cool, but enough to stretch your neck, to open your fingers, to lift your eyes. When you do, you see the world not as new, but as quiet. The sky presses low, gray and wide, as though it has grown tired of its own distance. Trees at the edge of the field stand still, bare limbs reaching sideways more than upward, their branches holding nothing but a little wind. You hear your brother's footsteps somewhere behind you, moving at the same slow pace, and it does not feel like loneliness. It feels like belonging, like the sound of your name spoken in silence. You shift your stance and look at your hands. Dirt caked into the creases. The skin rough and pink, where the cold has bitten. You flex them. You do not complain. You lift the hoe again. The weight of it is familiar. Not comforting, but known. The field waits. The row begins again. And in the slow, continuous movement of your limbs, you feel yourself slip back beneath the surface of thought. There are no questions here. No if. No when. Only now. Only this. You work not because you must, but because the motion keeps you whole. Because as long as your hands move, and the blade cuts, and the soil parts, you are still shaped by purpose. You are still inside the day. You keep going until the ache becomes a rhythm too. Another beat in the long, slow song of your body. Stitched into the pattern with your breath and the dull thump of your boots against earth, the pain is no longer something separate. It moves with you. Not sharp, not crying out, but low and deep and certain, like the root of a tree spreading beneath the frost. You pause only when your muscles tremble, only when your hands begin to lose their grip on the handle. Fingertips tingling, palms slick with sweat that smells faintly of iron and old wood. You lean the hoe against your thigh and breathe through your mouth. Short and steady. Fog, drifting out in little puffs that vanish before they reach your chest. The wind touches the back of your neck, and you close your eyes not to escape, but to listen. To feel the cold settle like a hand across your skin. It is not cruel. It does not ask anything from you. It simply is. And you let it be. You shift your weight from foot to foot, shaking out your fingers, flexing your shoulders, and for a moment, you think of nothing. Not the next row, not the coming night, only the weight of your own body. The slow heat rising from your core, the way your heart sounds in your ears, like footsteps in snow. You open your eyes again. The row stretches forward. It does not care that you are tired, but it does not hurry you either. You reach for the hoe again, and this time your fingers close around the handle with less certainty. The fatigue has dulled the edges of your grip, but you hold on anyway. You step forward. The blade drops. The soil gives. And again, you follow the line. You think of the evening as something distant, not a reward. Not even a goal, but a shape that will come when the field decides. You think of the fire, the small orange breath of it, the crackle it makes when someone feeds it the last branch, the warmth that spreads just enough to keep your fingers from going still. You think of the sound of the bowl on the table, the rough texture of bread dipped into broth, the soft hum of someone singing without words. These things are not promises. They are patterns, like furrows in the soil, and you do not wish for them. You move toward them without thinking. The cold deepens as the day leans forward, and the sky grows heavier, though it holds no snow. No sun, only light without warmth, only time without clock. Still. Your hands move. Still. The soil opens. And still. You stay with it. Not because you must, but because the rhythm has become a place to rest. A kind of stillness beneath motion. A way to disappear gently into the world and remain